This is a Netflix rom-com, so it's gotta be interesting. Your Place or Mine was directed by Aline Brosh McKenna and stars Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. And here, a formerly together couple find that maybe it's time for them each to get a little bit change of scenery. So the man offers to watch after the woman's child while she goes off and has the time of her life, which causes him to come closer to her son. But meanwhile, she tries to rediscover herself and her romantic interests, causing the two to kind of have conflict as they might potentially want to get back together again. Netflix had a whole trailer come out earlier, I think it was this year, where they said, mark the dates, and they put out all their big films, and I remember seeing like Rebel Moon, Heart of Stone, all these really big movies that I was very excited for and I was interested in. And along that, this was on the list, is like the second movie, and I remember looking, just being like, that doesn't fit in at all, but they had to probably fill their February slate a little bit. So I had no intention to really watch this movie. This movie came out on the 10th. I wasn't excited for it, which is why I'm reviewing it so late. And honestly, after seeing it, I don't like this movie. This movie's just generic, honestly, and it's lesser than generic. This movie is boring. It is just completely void of anything to really be creatively interesting. And I really hate that I'm about to essentially, to tell you the truth, give this movie one of my harshest reviews for a comedy I've ever given, but there's no other way for me to do it. I usually try to be very partial to filmmakers and try to give them, the benefit of the doubt. They worked so hard to make this film. But something like this, I don't know why it's really around. And to be perfectly honest, I see why it just went straight to Netflix, because there's nothing much to see. This movie seems to pull from better films a lot. I can honestly see parts in here reminding me of Crazy Stupid Love, and I was kind of like, that looks like you saw some ideas in there and used them. And a lot of the comedy doesn't land because it's just punchlines that don't feel like punchlines, or they play the joke to death and it just keeps going and going instead of cutting it. There's a line from Friends that I think is perfect where Chandler says, you gotta stop the Q-tip while there's still resistance. You cannot keep going and going and let the jokes just keep going and going and going. It feels very contrived too. The script feels very much like there's just too many conveniences that take place. And of course there's misunderstandings and there's conveniences in every rom-com, but this was to such an extent that it just felt excessive and really just dumb. Like, I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, but this is a dumb comedy. Like, there's just nothing to it, and I was bored. I was sitting there watching it, and I had a very bad time, honestly. I got up and left several times, and I wasn't enjoying myself as much as I was hoping I would. So I just was bored. I didn't like anything really in here, and the worst crime committed by this is it's not very funny. I just want my comedies to make me laugh, and the bestest thing really got out of me was a couple of good chuckles. There's one scene that's kind of funny. Like, I'd say the stuff with Ashton Kutcher and the kid are usually the better parts, but aside from that, everything else is just so underwhelming. It's so unoriginal. It's so rehashed, and it's just not entertaining. You don't really care. It was just like I was going through the motions of watching this movie, and I was like, well, I've wasted 30 minutes of my life, might as well finish it up. And I'm just watching the events take place and just like, can we get to the end? I already know how this is going to end. Let's just finish it up, so I can get out of here. I did not have a great time with this movie at all. Again, there are some good performances. I think Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher are really good. The young boy who's in here does a fun job at having some good banter and some chemistry with Ashton Kutcher. But aside from that, there's nothing. The script's really poorly done, and I don't expect rom-coms to look cinematic with sweeping shots, but this is very boring shot. There's not a lot to look at either, and it felt very just like by the numbers, crank out, and that's something I've really taken issue with in this. It just doesn't feel right. So for me, I didn't really have a good time with this movie. I wouldn't recommend you watching it at all. There's so many better options you could go see instead of this that already are in existence, and it would just probably be a waste of 90 minutes of your life, which I don't think you should go do. So go enjoy something else this time. I'm going to give Your Place or Mine a 2 out of 10. Thank you guys always so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you all next time.